It is now time for the Executive Edge, and yesterday I hosted the inaugural DealBook D.C. strategy forum in Washington. The event brought together some influential leaders, and we discussed and debated our nation's top policy agenda challenges. Joe and Becky made a ton of news on the show yesterday morning with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. He then continued to make some headlines at the forum later in the afternoon when I asked him, as a former investor, to share his perspective on corporate America and whether he would sign the Business Roundtable's new definition of a purpose of a corporation. And his answer may surprise you.
I wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have signed it?
No.
That's fascinating. And it's fundamentally because you disagree with the premise.
Again, I think it's not I wouldn't have signed it because I think it's not a simple answer. So, in other words, people on a lot of these issues want a one-sentence or two-sentence answer. So again, I don't think it's obviously businesses should have a purpose. To be profitable, you have to have a purpose. I think it's not as simple as saying we either have a purpose or we have profits. I think the problem with creating these a simple answer is it doesn't fully explore the issues. So I personally think companies need to both have a purpose and have profits.
It was, there was sort of a moment in there where people in the room sort of, I don't want to say gasp, but there was
I doubt it.
What did you say?
I doubt it.
You doubt what?
Unless it was a New York Times audience. That's the only reason there'd be a gasp. There was so much pushback to the BRT thing, Andrew. I mean, Cantor was in here.
Right.
And he was like, and other people were so disappointed that
no, but it was an interesting. First of all, he leaned into the answer, so I give him a lot of credit. It was an authentic answer.
I think it takes courage, not the virtue signal. It's so much easier just the virtue signal and say, oh, yeah, I definitely did. You know, it's so much easier just to go along with it than to actually, you know, have your wits about you and defend Milton Friedman, defend what we know works in this country and what's worked for hundreds of years without the virtue signal.
I'll tell you the one distinction. I went back, and everybody should read it if you get a chance to. Go read Milton. No, and now I'm going to be defending Milton Friedman for a second.
Because he wasn't either or either.
Right. Go read Milton Friedman's article in 1970.
I'm glad something got you
in
to
the
read
New York
it.
Times Magazine.
Okay.
Because it embedded in this article that had a big headline effectively saying that businesses didn't have a responsibility to the community or whatever it was. But if you go farther down, you really understand what he was saying was.
No, I've read some of his
work.
But
it's so obvious
what
he's saying. He's just saying.
If you're focused on profits, you're going to be taken care of. It's a trickle-down
effect. You need to do these other things.
But it's the system that we know provides the most prosperity, Andrew.
But I also think the question is whether this new Business Roundtable headline has been taken to an extreme, too, which is to say, if you actually read that statement, it's not saying that these are at cross purposes.
No, and what Milton Friedman, he was speaking at a time and writing this stuff at a time when corporate activism was running high, but they were doing that and neglecting other issues. So the companies performed very badly that had been saying, we're doing good. So
I told you, I've had people massage me from the Business Roundtable that are saying, look, there's lawyers involved. There's fiduciary responsibilities involved. This is something that it just made sense for us to do, almost in a CYA.
When they did it, I thought they were just trying to say, look, we've always been taking care of all of these issues.
That's what I would have said. Instead of saying, you know, Liz and Bernie, you're right about us.
Well,
and we're going to try and make it better. We're going to try and do better for you because we know we caused the 2008 financial crisis.
Look, you're dealing with lots of different audiences, though. You're dealing with audiences maybe who watch CNBC who already understood that, but you're dealing with mainstream audiences because it's getting so much play in the election who don't understand necessarily and haven't thought it through that this is what corporations have always been doing.
But I don't think the Business Roundtable statement is at cross purposes with that.
It also gives people that already are anti, whatever you want to say, if they look askance at corporations. They take a cynical viewpoint. Oh, you wrote this down as if you're going to actually change any of your behavior. So now you feel like you're covered. Well, you're still going to do everything you've been doing, chasing profits all along, and it just adds grist to that.
But look, I think what the CEOs were doing was responding to the changing public
what do you say about
perception of these things after the Great Recession.